For thermal styling, we're going to focus more on our products and tools used for thermal, as well as thermal styling techniques. The client consultation will determine what products you may want to use with your client. You have different hairsprays and oil sheens and shines and styling lotions, gel, cream, foam, mousse, serums, edge controls, pomade, and a host of other products that you may want to use. You even have like hair refreshers, different companies are making. And so the products that you choose, again, are going to just depend on the client and the client consultation. The hairspray can range from, light hold to medium hold. It might be spritz with a firm hold. It maybe come out more like a sheen as opposed to, a liquid based product. You have your sheens that may possibly, give shine and oil. And during and after, sometimes you have oil free shines. We have our different styling lotions that can add moisture to the hair. Our different gels that are used to shape and mold the hair. You have foam, which you might be using on soft hair to wrap, or you might have mousse that you may be using to get a firm hold on something. We have our setting lotions and used to wrap hair, or maybe used to do a roller set. We have different edge controls that are used on textured hair. You may be using a pomade that you may be using to give a light or a strong hold on various types of hair. We have our, heat protectants as well. Those are used as what they call thermal protectants, used when thermal styling to prevent you from damaging the client's cuticle. So you want to be using a heat protectant. It helps to prevent drying as well. And just using something prior to applying a flat iron or a blow dryer or any kind of heat to the hair, you want to give something, the client hair, some kind of protection. You have your blow drying aids as well. And those, it could be, you could be using various products for that. Sometimes you may be using, it might be a leave-in conditioner, it might be a foam, sometimes to soften the hair prior to using the blow dryer. You could be doing, it could be a paste. It just depends on the client, the style, and what it is that you're trying to achieve. You also have your different dry shampoos or volumizing products that help you to thicken the hair strand or you give you lift. It just depends on the look that you and your client have decided to go for. You have like a hairspray versus a finishing spray. The hairspray can be applied while you are still working on the guest, whereas possibly with the finishing spray, you wouldn't want to put that on to the ends, to the very end of the hairstyle. Anything with an extreme hold. Make sure you're keeping the can 6 to 8 inches away from the client's hair. We have pomades and waxes as well. They are generally the last styling aid used on the hair to build texture. These kind of products help you mold the client's hair. But the products that you use are going to be dependent upon the client that you are working with. It's good to keep products that work on all types of hair. So this way you are able to provide services to a diverse clientele. Now, when you think about the equipment for the thermal styling, we have our blow dryers, our flat irons, we have the different aids that go with those tools. We have our wands now. People are using different wands. They're using the blow dryers. They have brushes already made onto them to assist with the highly textured hair, with straightening highly textured hair. The products that you use are going to be determined by the clientele that you're working with. Remember that we have our blow dry styling, also known as air forming. With air forming, when you're done blow drying the client's hair, their hair should be styled and they should be able to leave. And so that's what we're talking about when we are thinking about air forming. When choosing your tools, you want to choose tools that are beneficial to you and your client as a stylist. Tools are an investment in your career. So you keep that in mind, that you want to have professional tools that will last you over time. And, don't believe that because a product is more expensive, it's better. That can be the case, but it's not always the case. So it's up to you as a professional to determine what works for you. Remember that when blow drying the client's hair, you always want to have that attachment. We're keeping that blow dryer 3 to 5 inches away from the client's hair. You can do that by using a concentrated nozzle, or possibly a diffuser. Remember, our diffuser is an attachment that goes onto the blow dryer that provides us the heat without the air. The concentrated nozzle helps close the cuticle and give the hair shine and luster. So you want to make sure that you are using that concentrated nozzle. And it also helps to prevent damaging the cuticle as well. Always direct the flow of the heat away from the client's scalp to prevent from burning the client. Remember that the cuticle layer faces downward from the scalp. So when air forming or blow drying the hair, you want to direct the airflow in the direction that the cuticle layer grows. You do not want to disrupt the cuticle by air forming, blow drying, or brushing or combing the hair in the opposite direction of the cuticle growth. When you are straightening the hair with a flat iron, try to allow the flat iron to penetrate the hair. So you need to allow the heat to penetrate the hair. So taking the flat iron and running it through fast a lot of times is not getting the hair straighter. You want to use a nice amount of tension along with the comb and slowly glide the flat iron down the hair strand. The slower you take the flat iron down the strands, the faster you will be done. Constantly raking the flat iron through the hair is not going to make it straight. Make sure that you have your partings and your sections set up so that you can finish the client's hair quickly. If you're going to be using a thermal iron or stove iron, just remember that the same rules apply, that the size of the iron should be in relation to the length of the client's hair and the size of the curls that you are trying to create. Remember, for your thermal iron, you have the rod or the barrel, the rod handle, then you have the shell, and then you also have the shell handle. And you should be thinking about, if I'm going to do a volume curl, where should the shell be on the iron? If I'm going to do indentation, where should the shell be when on the iron when I'm doing the curl? So that you're sure that you're familiar with the iron and what kind of curls you're going to make and what direction. Remember, for volume curls, we're using square partings. When we're doing spiral curls, we're using rectangle partings. So keep in mind what partings you should be doing for which styles. Remember, we also have our Marcel irons as well. Marcel irons work good on highly textured hair. They can go up to 850 degrees, whereas electric irons usually go up to around 450 degrees. Marcel irons do come with a stove, and using Marcel irons is an art form. It takes patience, and there are clients that insist on having a professional that is able to use a Marcel iron. We also have wands. Wands are very popular. Just make sure it's best to have a glove, I believe, when using the wands. But you can also use a curling iron kind of the same way. If you are not using the clamp, or if the clamp broke, it could be used as a wand as well. I have seen students using the iron as a wand. We have crimping irons and specialty irons. It depends if you want to have a deep wave. You can use thermal irons to create a deep wave, one wave at a time, or you can have an iron that will create the crimp for you or create the wave for you. Now, our heat parameters for fragile hair, you really want to have a low iron, possibly 250 degrees, not more than 300. For fine hair, you may want to have the hair to 300 degrees. When you're thinking about medium, up to 350 degrees, we'll say, and then coarse hair up to 375. Coarse and coily, 400 degrees. You may encounter textures that need higher degrees, but that is something that you'll determine after consulting with the guest and doing a hair analysis and figuring out what style they want to wear. Always make sure that you are testing your iron on the white paper towel, so that if the iron is too hot, you know that before placing it onto the client's hair. Also, make sure on color treated hair, you want to make sure that you are using a lower temperature, that you are checking the temperature to make sure that it is consistent with the client's texture of hair. Anybody with color treated hair may need a lower temperature iron, or if someone has hair that has been lightened, similar along the lines of color treated or chemically treated, you want to keep all of those things in mind when providing them with thermal service. When cleaning the irons with buildup, it depends on if you're using a Marcel iron or if you are using an electric iron. Electric irons can usually be cleaned while they're off, and you can use alcohol to clean those. With Marcel irons, it may be a little bit different. People have different techniques for cleaning Marcel irons. I have found that they are easily cleaned with possibly a kitchen sponge. It just depends. Some people prefer to clean them hot. It just depends on the professional. Make sure you're spraying and wiping with an EPA registered disinfectant, fungicidal, or virucidal solution according to the manufacturer's directions, of course. When you're using your thermal pressing irons, those can be electric or those can be go on the Marcel, go on the stove as well. So it just depends on you as a professional and what kind of tools you want. Some people may want to ask for, a soft press, which involves removing 50 to 60% of the curl, or a medium press, which removes about 60 to 75% of the curl. And then some people may want a hard press, which removes 100% of the curl from the client hair. A hard press is sometimes called a double press as well. So keep that in mind. If somebody wants a double press, they want the hair to be 100% straight. So if it's Marcel pressing comb, then you will be able to regulate the temperature, how hot it gets. If it's an electric pressing combs, then it will have a thermostat that lets you know if it's high or low, or sometimes they may have thermostats that have numbers on them 1 through 10 to let you know how hot the pressing comb gets. Keep the pressing combs clean and always temper the iron, especially if you're using like a brass iron. You're going to temper the Marcel iron or the pressing iron if it goes on the stove. This is for stove products only, please. Temper the iron by or pressing comb by placing it into the stove and allowing it to get hot. After it is extremely hot, you can remove it from the stove and coat it with petroleum jelly or pressing oil and allowing it to cool off. Once the iron has cooled off, you will remove any oil, any excess oil that's remaining on the iron, and then you can rinse the iron with hot water and pat the iron dry. After this, you can proceed to use the iron as normal. Your pressing oil is also considered a heat protectant as well. It's designed to help you make the hair soft, condition, prevent you from damaging the hair and scorching the hair. It's kind of like a barrier between the iron and the hair. And then it should help keep the hairstyle and make it last longer. Always consider the texture of the client's hair before using a hot comb or Marcel iron on the client's hair. Make sure that you have tested the temperature of the iron. You're going to make sure that you are deep conditioning the client's hair, making sure that they are maintaining the health of their hair by using different deep conditioners and masks. You don't want to use too much pressing oil on the client's hair when you are completing the service. Avoid any kind of pressing oils that may cause an allergic reaction to your clients. It should not be done too frequently because you don't want to burn the client's hair. You have to make sure that your pressing comb or Marcel irons are clean at all times. Avoid overheating the pressing comb. If you are using a stove, test the temperature of the heated comb on the white paper cloth before applying to the client's hair. You are always considering the texture of the client's hair. Applying too much pressing oil may cause vapors to be released in the air, and you don't want to alarm the client. So please don't overuse the product. Make sure that you're using a warm comb. You can always increase the heat according to the texture, but you never want to start off with the comb too hot. For fine textures, you may want to use an electric iron rather than a Marcel iron. And make sure that you are pressing the hair in the direction that the hair grows. If for any reason during the service the client is burned, please seek medical attention immediately. Always, again, take into special consideration the fine hair. You can use electric comb or flat irons. You can diversify your styling techniques by being able to use all different kind of thermal styling tools. If someone has color treated hair, again, you will want to use a low heat on their hair. You're pressing fine hair, consider flat ironing or using a small amount of pressure on the hair. You may not be using such firm pressure. Be mindful of the hairline. You do not want to burn the client's hairline. If someone has coarse hair, you have to make sure that you're using enough pressure to get that coarse hair straight. So you want to know which techniques to use on which client's hair and how much heat to use as well. With gray hair, you have to be mindful. If you are having the heat up too high, you can, the same way the paper will turn from white to brown, the gray hair will do the exact same thing. So if you're straightening gray hair, make sure you have it on a temperature that will not stain the client's hair or burn the client's hair.